Okay, so if you played any Bedwars in the last month or so, you've probably noticed a recurring issue. People are leaving games, and that makes wait times longer, which is frustrating. But if you spend any time looking at the accounts that are leaving these games, it's the same accounts. These bots, as I'll refer to them, join a game, wait about 4 to 5 seconds, and then leave the lobby or the game if it's started. And this happens over and over. See, the reason this works is because either they join a lobby and leave in such a way that it resets the timer, or they leave and find another lobby to do the same in, when that spot could be filled by a player who actually wants to play the game. This is most evident when the bot leaves after the game has actually started, so the team that had that account on its team are now one teammate down. Okay, so here is one of the accounts in question. As you can see, they're literally right now in a Bedwars 4-4 game, and if we look at their stats here, it's pretty obvious what's going on. You can see this is their deaths and this is their kills. Got a lot more deaths than kills, which is a little suspicious to this point, especially because in solo and double, their KD isn't anywhere near that bad. And so what is happening here is these are the games that the bots are joining and then leaving once the game has started, and they're dying as a result of that. Which means they're joining many more games than this, which is a lot of games. Still I don't think a particularly major issue, but pointing out that it is worth thinking about, I think. The reason that I'm blacking out all the personal information is because firstly, if you look on the name MC of these accounts, you can see that most of them have had previous usernames and stuff like that. So it's possible they've just been cracked or they've been, broken into, whatever. So I don't want to sort of give them any unnecessary hate if they do get their accounts back. Just to add to that theory, they seem to have played some solo and doubles, so potentially that was played before the account was cracked or used in this fashion. Maybe the person who owns this account is the person who runs all this stuff and they just decided they wanted to do this. But because I don't know for sure, I'd rather cover up the information. In other games, like if you look at Jules, they have some actual statistics here. Like they've clearly played the game a few times, particularly something like Bridge. It's pretty obvious that this count could have been used legitimately at some point. And again, quite a similar thing for this other account here. Pretty much similar statistics, some seeming legitimate solo games, maybe potentially also even some legitimate doubles games, and then 3v3, 4v4 is when you notice the real difference. But this account doesn't seem to have that much in the way of games outside, but there do seem to be some, kills and deaths here in Skywars, so potentially this was at least used at some point as a legitimate account. So why hasn't this issue been fixed? Well, I don't know for certain, but assumedly it's because it's a more difficult thing to fix than worth the gain. Or maybe they're fixing it right now. It takes resources to program things like that, which are taken away from actually improving game modes or making new ones. It's also reasonably difficult to verify for sure that each of the accounts in question is a bot, because leaving times can be varied, etc. So doing this wastes staff time. So while I'm sure the staff team are aware of this issue and are doing their best, particularly given the additional player count recently, I figured I might make this video for some suggestions on how we could solve that problem, or at least to generate a conversation about how we could minimize this issue or any similar problems in the future. Alright, solutions. The obvious one is to prevent people leaving lobbies, but if you give that more than the half a second of thought it took me to think about it, it doesn't work. You can just disconnect from the server and then reconnect and repeat the process. Okay, so what about a cooldown or something like that on joining games that you've left? This works as an idea, but in practice, I feel like it would be quite difficult to make. See, does the cooldown just occur for that specific game, like Bedwars? So could the account not just go do the same elsewhere? So maybe you could argue against this and say that it'll just spread the issue. To counter that though, it could be across the whole server, but that could have a detrimental effect on players and their experience. After all, I'm pretty sure that all of us accidentally join endlessly sometimes. Honestly, having thought about it, while this isn't a perfect solution to the issue, it's still a good idea in my opinion. Maybe they're working on something like this, and maybe there's a balance to be struck between having it just in one game mode or across the whole server. So why is there more of the video then? Well, it's complicated. See, when this happens, a lot of the time, but not every time, other players leave the game too. They get impatient and they join another game. And while this isn't a major problem, and I'm not complaining or having a go at these players, I think it presents a solution that could minimize this issue, and also reward waiting around for a game to start, without punishing people who actually want to leave and do something else in any way. So how do you influence a whole community? The karma system is intriguing, because every time someone says GG, you get +5 karma, without a rank. So what's the point of karma then? None. Okay, so why do people do it? Well, partly because it's a nice thing to say, like congratulations, that was a fun game, fellow player of Hypixel. but also partly because the value increasing is a great example of nudges. So how a nudge works is that positive reinforcement, even one that has no real value other than the number itself increasing, can be used to influence decisions and behavior. It's used all the time in real life. So in this case, Hypixel are rewarding you, the player, for demonstrating what they see as good behavior, which is both clever and effective. If you played Hypixel though, you know that not everyone types GG at the end of the game, and certainly not everyone displays this good behavior. So how do you encourage more people to say something like GG? You reward them. So now to take that example and use it in this context, I give you my placeholder title of the honor system. I know there might be issues with this, and I'm not trying to say that there aren't, it's just an idea. So to start off, if we're applying this to Bedwars, we could have a system where the longer you wait in a game, the more honor you get. So just for some example numbers, if you wait 3 minutes to get into a game, you get maybe 30 honor. And what does honor get you? Well, like almost all of Hypixel, custom cosmetics and rewards unique only to that path to achieve them. This way, we reward players who stay in games without punishing those who do want to leave, targeting the minority players who leave a lobby within about 30 seconds if it doesn't immediately fill. A potential problem that could occur is that players would start to farm honor by just waiting in games without ever having the intention of starting them. So to solve something like this, we can just need a cap on the value that could be gained from each waiting time, so to prevent that kind of behavior. I'm also aware that there are other issues with this, like not everyone plays Bedwars as their main game. So if they only play one game a week, are they going to care about it? Or what happens if the bots are just introduced to other games? I guess what I'm proposing to solve that, although I understand this might be a bit far-fetched, is to integrate the whole honor system across the entire server, in a similar way to the tournament tokens, so rewards can be bought for any game mode, or at least a lot of them. And while it may take time to make these kind of rewards, they could just be small additions. They don't have to be the next big thing, because the karma system has shown how effective these nudges can be with next to no reward. This would also help small game modes out, because players who maybe only join those games once a week, and maybe main more popular games, would be encouraged to also wait around in those lobbies to earn honor, rather than just leave because they can go and play a more popular game, helping fill those smaller game modes as well, and maybe even increase their player count. Overall, I feel like it's an okay idea, and while it might take some time or resources to implement, I personally believe that something like this could not only benefit this particular issue, but also the community and the server as a whole, across both small and large game modes. Look, I'm not a seer, other people might see it differently. Maybe there's a far better solution I don't see, or maybe there's just a bunch of issues with the idea. I'm not claiming to have solved world peace here. I just feel like this idea is worth talking about, because hopefully we're all just trying to help.